What's up, YouTube? This is Swide from Hebrew Legends, here with a new series for you guys, which, as the playlist title fittingly suggests, is all about failed attacks. A lot of the times we show all these fancy, 3-star attacks where our planning all went very well, and the execution of that planning came to fruition in a 3-star and a good-looking attack. But a lot of the time, that is not the case, and it doesn't always go as smoothly as those attacks suggest. So I am going to show you here just a couple of attacks real quick to get us started, and show you where things in the planning maybe can go wrong, and those small tweaks that will ultimately help you get that 3-star. So I'd love to show some of my own attacks for this war, but I was actually just a spectator, so I have no fails of my own, even though there are plenty of those. But I got an okay from a couple of other players, so we're going to look at their attacks. The first one's from Orfrag. Looking at his shattered Goho. This is the general. Everybody knows the general. It's not a great base. This one's even somewhat more poorly constructed than a normal general. But it fails not because it's a difficult base, but just because I'm going to make the case that Orf doesn't bring the right spell composition. And it's something that simple that happens, in the planning and what goes into things before a raid that has nothing to do with the execution and actually kind of fails from the start. So let's take a quick look at that. He brings a couple hogs from the south just on that archer tower just to get the lure and whatnot. He's going to then bring them out to the side using an archer as an anchor. You can see him bringing a couple barbs. Witches go down. He actually loses a witch there. I fast-forwarded a little quickly, but loses a witch to one of those minions, which hurts him initially, but is not really where his raid fails. Golem goes down, and you can see his queen is outside of those walls. Didn't need the wall breakers. Anytime a queen is bordering a wall, or even perfectly cornered by a wall, she's going to jump. So you don't have to worry about that in that case. And you can see he drops this rage. This is the first problem, I think. That rage effectively doesn't do anything. You can see that his golems take a route through to the defenses, but he still has a jump in the bag that he hasn't used. So instead of his king kind of getting in here and maybe working on some defenses, tripping a double giant bomb spot and all that jazz, he just sits here and beats on a wall with his honorary wall breaker wife, queen there, and things just don't really go all that well. And that rage is effectively useless. It only affects, a king wall breaker and a couple golems that are just supposed to be tanking anyway. So I'll just continue to play this here. This king finally gets in, and you can see that a couple minions actually came out, and he gets the rest of the lure. But at that point, he drops the jump. It's possible he just forgot, or he wanted to use that rage in, maybe he was trying to drop the jump, and he accidentally dropped a rage. Those are possibilities. We make mistakes like that all the time. But, he did bring the rage. And I don't think it was the best spell choice. You can see his hogs come in, 3-finger drop on 3 defenses. Fine hog pathing, but he's only got 2 spells. So he uses the first one in a good place, gets most of his hogs, and then he has to use the second one where he's tripping the classic general giant bombs to make sure those hogs stay alive. You can see him bringing in a few loons, which do a good amount of work. This one doesn't quite get this archer tower, but these other 2 are doing fine. Has his cleanup wizards already in. Even a loon from the bottom here is going to get that archer tower, but you can see his hogs just kind of peter out. But with one more heal spell, this would have been a 3-star. He would have had hogs left, and it wouldn't have been a problem. Basically, it's so much of a raid comes down to the initial planning and making sure that you're bringing only what you need to get the job done. So in this case, Orf brought some wall breakers, which, 6 unit space, so it's not a lot, but hey, that's an extra hog, maybe an extra barb for that CC lure and kill maybe he kept a witch and had an extra hog, and maybe things would have gone a little different even without that spell. So you can see things just petered out for him, and he ended up with a kind of medium percentage 1-star. But, you know, a couple small changes, one different spell that could have been used a little bit more effectively would have changed that whole raid. The next attack I just want to show is Noah's attack. And I will scroll down and look for it here. Noah came in with a pentaloon. And in his defense, he was talking to me about it, and it was his first pentaloon. So, you know, he's trying out a new strategy, and a lot of times that's pretty hard for the first time. And it's on the same base, actually. It's that number 9 base, and Orf's attack was supposed to be a cleanup, and it didn't quite go as well as he had planned. But it's the general again, of course. And this variation of the general, though, has defenses kind of in an off-centered line, as you can see here, on both sides. So when Noah's coming in from the top, the pathing of his loons are going to kind of take him away from the air defenses and move him around. You'll see that in a little bit. He decides to, I'll go ahead and play this, he decides to burn a few loons for the lure. Another thing I want to talk about just briefly is committing to the lure. You can see he drops 3 balloons right off the bat, but staggered, and this guy had 3 seeking air mines down there, which, you know, you don't expect. But at the same time, had he just dropped 3 loons one after another, at least 2 of those would have gone for the same loon, and it would kind of, you know, been easier. But because he was kind of hesitant and he was just trying to drop only enough to get the job done, it cost him maybe 1 extra than it would have normally. So that's one thing, commit to the lure. Another thing I want to talk about just very briefly is, before, you know, in this attack is already underway up here, as you can see, but one other thing is about the use of heroes in a pentaloon. A lot of people, you know, theories on pentaloon differ, and it's such an overpowered attack that pretty much whatever you do, the heroes are not going to make or break your attack. Noah uses them in this case just for the lure and kill. That's one way to do it. A lot of people don't lure with Penta. They say those loons are too valuable, and it takes those 3 loons, and they can be the difference between a high percentage 2-star and that 3-star. But at the same time, I'm kind of the mindset that get the lure just in case your lava pups, something happens and they don't quite get the job done on their CC. In addition to the fact that you're not using your heroes for anything else. And what better way to use them than to just take care of the clan castle and to get them started on, you know, a little building cleanup around the way. In any case, it's so overpowered that you can, there's a number of different ways you can approach pentaloon, and it works most of the time. But, you know, he dropped 2 lava hounds here and 2 lava hounds here. Okay. So looking at his loon pathing, you can see that this guy had a Tesla, couple defenses, a Tesla, 1 defense, and you can see how his loons are actually going to path already. Because these air defenses are slightly offset, you can see how these loons are going to kind of go around them. These ones path because of this archer tower here, not to the air defense, which is diagonal, but horizontal to the closer defense, which is that archer tower, and then away from that air defense, which is the mortar. And where Noah's raid ultimately fails is the fact that his lava hounds here, which are supposed to be tanking for his balloons, get separated from his balloons. And you can see this side just completely gets demolished because of that. Which, you know, that's something, and you can even see over here, these loons already separated a little bit, and this wizard tower has locked onto them rather than the lava hounds. And the lava hounds are traveling en masse because those air defenses are starting to go down a little quicker, but at that point, it's too late. Noah doesn't have enough loons left. These expos have remained untouched throughout the raid because the way he sent in his hounds, and a 3rd one later on, the loons traveled around rather than through. Which is sometimes the problem with a pentaloon. Chances are he may have been better served with a shattered, but hey, first attacks are like that sometimes. And kudos to Noah for just trying out something new. He had never tried one before, like I said, and sometimes things like that go wrong. So I just wanted to show you guys a couple of those replays quick. It's a pretty short video, but just wanted to get this series started off with a couple of good-hearted failures, just to show you guys that we are not as infallible, you know, as war specialists as it seems a lot of the time. And there is so much to be learned from failed attacks and the cleanup attacks thereafter. So in any case, guys, good luck in your next war. This is Swide from Hebrew Legends. Have a good one.